just going to pass it over to you and let you run with it, bud. Take it away.
That sounds good, man. Well, I don't have a specific stock spotlight this morning. Rather, I have a few that I'm kind of keeping my eyes on early, in addition to some of the others that we mentioned later in the week last week. For sure, we got our eyes on BBDA again this morning, coming out of the gates. Had another big day on Friday after our mini morning spotlight. And as we mentioned in that spotlight, they're supposed to have some sort of big update from the company this week. Is the target date, but within the next week or two here, on why the company doesn't need to dilute into the future here. So some sort of deal or arrangement that's going to be significantly positive for the company. So keep your eyes out for that news for BBDA, and keep an eye on that stock in general. It touched the 001s a little bit on Friday, and if it breaks through that, it might have a little juice in it yet before that update comes out. But one stock that's kind of on my radar, kind of not on my radar, but I want to bring it up now because it likes to find a bottom at this 1 cent area over the recent past here. PTS Incorporated. This was, for a little while, this was a Myanmar. We mentioned Myanmar on the show a couple times. They're an investor relations firm. I believe they were the investor relations firm for PTSH for a little while there when it was basically a shell company. But they recently did a merger with this Navistar Logistics. I'm looking at pink sheets at overthecountermarkets.com right now. Let me scroll down a little bit so I can pull this up. Can't really see that. The business description, PTS Incorporated, their subsidiary Navistar Logistics, which is actually out of the United Kingdom, is an international logistics freight forwarding company with high-quality warehousing in London, Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle, and at all ports and airports, and with North American subsidiaries Starbase Global Logistics. So they're definitely within the U.S., and also their main focus is international, but it's basically an international logistics company. They literally organize everything related to logistics. They do have a website. You can click on that link from overthecountermarkets.com. It talks a lot about all their different types of services. If you click on this little Navistar link, air freight, ocean freight, special projects, storage fulfillment. They basically organize everything related to the freight world. But anyways, the reason why I wanted to talk about this one specifically, if you look at the share structure here on pink sheets, they have an outstanding share count of just under 46 million shares, about 45.77 million shares, and that's very, very current. They're very good at getting their company information and disclosures out and staying current. Actually, they're not current. I would expect them to get current very soon. They've been releasing their financials and details and stuff like that, so which is very good to keep their shareholders informed. Nice small float of around 28 million shares. Their authorized share count is pretty high. But when we go and actually look at the recent press they've been putting out, they say they're not diluting. And sometimes companies say they're not diluting when they're actually diluting. But they seem to think that there's no toxic convertibles or anything like that out there outside of what they actually used when they completed this merger with this subsidiary Navistar Logistics within the last year or so here. So a real nice share structure for a stock trading around 1 cent. Market cap just over $500,000. And especially with some of the news they just put out related to some of the revenues they might be bringing in the near future with some deals they've been making within the subsidiary Navistar Logistics. Just going over to DD Amanda real quick, because I love to use DD Amanda always, just to get an idea of dollar volume on the stock for the last few months. That's the main tool that I use for that, and it's really easy to gauge what's been going on, any sort of dilution or anything like that. We'll probably take a look at the chart after this one too, so if Sumo or Siffy wants to pull that up and take a quick look at it. But as you can see, relatively low dollar volume most of the time. Every once in a while you'll get a $30,000 day or something like that. But for the most part, it's been hanging around this 1 to 2 cent range for quite a while. Every once in a while it'll dip a little bit below it on some low volume. Every once in a while it'll ramp up to that 2.5 cent mark on some relatively low volume as well. So just in general, really low dollar volumes traded every single day. It's been increasing a little bit every once in a while, a few days. So there might be some convertibles hitting from that merger completion or whatever, but nothing too significant. And I actually kind of like it if they keep the share structure relatively similar to what it is now, around this 1 cent mark. So let's go check out some of the recent news on the iHub. On June 13th, 2012, last week, they put out some press related to their share price volatility and fluctuation statement. So every once in a while, when a company, the SEC or someone will hit up the company on, well, why is your share price so volatile? Well, the main reason with this one is because they have such a low share structure and such a low float. So there's not that many shares available at a specific ask price. So if someone buys some shares, it might go up pretty rapidly, but it also comes down pretty rapidly too. So keep that in mind. But, they just go through a description of what's been going on with the company and some of the rumors floating around, both positive and negative. Mr. John O'Brien said, on behalf of PTSH, the management, and our key personnel, we have been asked to make a public comment by many of PTSH shareholders regarding the share price volatility and fluctuation. We are no experts in this field, and this is our opinion only. They talk a lot about stuff, but prior to Navistar merger with PTSH, we were made aware that PTSH was an over-the-counter BV reporting company and was unable to keep that status due to its financial duress. So obviously downgraded on pink sheets. Now they're a pink limited information company as of right now. Let's see if we can find any other bits in this paragraph. We are mindful that the old PTSH shareholders invested in a medical software company, and that Navistar Logistics business model is as different as night and day from that MSC model. We cannot comment on what the ex-management did or did not do, so they have new management in place with the new merger. And we do not see how being a Monday morning quarterback can advance Navistar or PTSH positions today. PTSH and Navistar filed adequate disclosure documentation with over-the-counter markets. All that information in the report is current. So they're talking about that share structure and the business model on there. So they've moved from a medical software company to international logistics business model with a new merger. So complete change in business direction, new management, the whole works. But this management is basically trying to quell some of the fears from some of the things that past management did with the company. I also want this opportunity to address and quash various rumors, theories, and innuendos that have been presented to us here at PTSH. There is no debt conversion of any sort going on. That's what I just alluded to when we were looking at DD Amanda there. All the PTSH debts and obligations were settled and or resolved concurrent with the reverse split on March 2011 with the proceeds of the accredited investor. Our focus is entirely dedicated to running our logistics business and nothing else. I can say with definite clarity and conviction that the company is not engaged in any sort of dilution, toxic financing, or otherwise. So very positive there. Other than shares which were issued to Navistar for the merger with PTSH and to the accredited investor who assisted PTSH in its times of trouble last year before our merger, to the best of our knowledge and records, no other shares were issued in PTSH. We have been inundated with questions and suspicions that our prior M&A and IR firm, this is the Myanmar group that I mentioned, is selling shares, is listed for sale, and the speculation that they are going bankrupt and doing a fire sale. So basically they're quelling these rumors that Myanmar is going bankrupt and they have to sell all their shares in all these companies that they're doing work for at bargain prices, and they don't care what price they sell at. It's not true. To the best of our knowledge, according to corporate records, there are no shares issued to Myanmar Group, to them. There's nothing in our contract that prohibits them from making a sale of their divisions of our company in whole or in part. While they do have a large following, exit from retail IR services may have swayed some or caused concern to others. We see this as of no concern to the well-being of PTSH moving forward. And if you actually read any of the Myanmar emailers that go out into email inboxes, they're very positive with PTSH going forward. And as mentioned down here as well, they're actually still doing some consulting with PTSH as they carry through and finish up some of the things with this Navistar merger. and the future direction of the company. So a very positive press release here for shareholders, quelling some of the fears and rumors about some of the toxic stuff going on or not going on, as stated in this press release. So very positive. And then later last week, on June 15th, 2 days later, they released some revenue-related news. PTS Incorporated. PTS Inc., subsidiary of Navistar Global Logistics, is finalizing expansion in the United Kingdom with a new client based in Aberdeen, Scotland, which is a major player in oil and gas industry. So some type of logistics work in the oil and gas industry, some sort of deal going on there here. This expansion will support the U.S. trade lands. More updates will be released in regards to these developments next week once the contract is signed. So now immediately we can expect more news this week related to this contract. This will be in excess of 4 million British pounds annual revenue for the UK company, whilst benefiting the USA offices. And as stated up here, that translates to about 6.3 million US dollars annually for this specific subsidiary, PTS Incorporated. And remember, we're sitting at a market cap of about 500,000 right now, around this penny mark. So 6.3 million US dollars in revenues is actually very, very significant. And it's just one of probably many deals to be announced in the very near future related to PTS Incorporated, especially if the share structure remains similar to what it is now. So very good stuff there for PTS Incorporated. And I believe that's just about everything I wanted to go over. I don't want to go into too much detail about all the filings and stuff. This is just one of a few I want to talk about this morning if we have time. So can we look at the chart? Do you want to have that up?
Sure. Let's hit up that chart. Okay, going back earlier this year, between the beginning of the year up until just recently, the stock has held 0.1 as support level. And notice it bounced off of this 0.11 here, and right here it bounced off of the 0.1. Had a tough time getting above the 20-day moving average right here in the month of May and here recently in June. But if you notice, prior to that, it was above this 20-day and it held above it for quite some time. But then once it broke below the 20-day, you've seen a downward trend, and you've seen some big volume days here and there. And you notice on those big volume days there was some selling pressure and the stock had dropped, and it looks like it's starting to come back on light volume, so that's a good sign. I'd like to see it get above this 20-day and hold as support. Needs to break above this 20-day moving average, which is crucial. Currently the 20-day moving average is at 0.125. Going down, looking at the RSI, you can tell that it's coming off of being oversold. It had bounced off of this oversold area once before, tried to come back up, but struggled. And we need to see this RSI get above the 50 line and the 50 overlay, which the 50 overlay is at the 50 line. You notice back here, it got above the 50 overlay, got above that 50 line. That's when you see the stock move from 0.16 to 0.45. It got up in that power zone. That's when you seen the stock break out to 0.45. But since then, it's been on a decline. It tried to get above this 50 line back here, couldn't stay above it, so she broke down and lost its support. But now we're trying to recover, needs to get above that mark. Taking a look at the PPO, looks like you have a hint of convergence. This line is trying to hook up. I want to see this line continue to move north and cross. Like to see these cross over, and that would be a good indicator. But this PPO has a long way to go before it can get above that 50 overlay, and that'll be another good sign. So just something to keep in mind. We're looking for a cross here, and we're looking for the PPO to get above this 50 overlay. As for the slow stow, it's coming off of being oversold. We got the cross, so that looks good. Need to see this slow stow keep moving north, and always looking for it to get above the 50 overlay and the 50 line, so that'll show some strength. So right now the chart's looking decent, coming off of being oversold. needs to get through the 20-day moving average here at 0125 and hold as support. And then after that, the next key resistance range is going to be here at 0176 and then 0246, where you have all these other moving averages bunched up. You got the 50, the 200, and the 100-day all sitting around 024 to 0256. So that's going to be a major resistance point here once we can get above these next key resistances at the 20-day and 0176. All right, that's what I got for the chart.